Welcome to Let's Get Into It. I am your host, Sherelle Higgins. Let's Get Into It is a safe space to have real conversations that are meant to uplift, encourage, and let you know you are not the only one dealing with life. Each episode of Let's Get Into It is designed to provide illuminating and thought-provoking information on a variety of topics. In fact, no topic is off limit. If you would like to see a topic discussed, please feel free to make a recommendation. My special guest and I will have a great time discussing topics that the mainstream media wouldn't dare discuss. We will bring these conversations to you with an open mind, respectfully, from different perspectives, and most importantly, with love. Thank you for joining me and my special guest. Now, let's get into it. Hello, hello, hello. I was just sitting here listening to the intro, and I said I was going to be talking about things that the mainstream media wouldn't dare talk about. And who knew that the things that I was going to be talking about would be all of what's going on with our federal workforce. And so, yes, the mainstream media is not telling you the information that I am providing. And so I am more than happy to share my knowledge with each of you in hopes that you will use it and make informed decisions and also share it so that others can make informed decisions as well. I want to run through a couple of things real quick. Number one is I saw that the word on the street is that 20,000 employees have submitted a deferred resignation application. I don't believe it. I'm just going to say that up front. And and the reason why I don't believe it is, first of all, did they round it up? Was it exactly 20,000 people, or did they round it up? What did they do with this? Where did this number come from? Without any supporting facts, I just can't believe that 20,000 employees submitted their deferred resignation. In addition to that, I don't believe it because, we have been lied to many, many times from the administration. And so there is no reason for me to believe that 20,000 employees submitted their deferred resignation. So I wanted to address that. Oh, and one of the reasons why they probably put that number out there is to put more pressure on more people to think that, oh, if so many people are doing it, it must be a good thing. Don't fall for the okie doke. It's not necessarily the case. You have to make your own decisions about what's best for you and your family. Also, I understand one agency sent out a communication to employees and told them that they do have the early out authority from OPM, and that the only way that people can take it is if they submit an application for the deferred resignation program. Now, again, that's an oxymoron. You either retire or you resign. You don't do both. And so for them to send that communication out to their employees to tell them that the only way they could take an early retirement is if they submit for the deferred resignation program just doesn't make any sense. And so I hope that those agency employees will be sure to go through the agreement, which I'm going to do today in detail, because I want to give you some things to think about as you read through the agreement. Also, I understand that the employees, the DEI employees whose responsibility it was to carry out the agency's DEI programs, received a letter telling them to either retire or resign. And I am here to tell those employees, and please spread the word, do not resign from your position. Do not resign from your position. Make them fire you, because you probably have been at the agency for a very long time and or in the federal sector for a very long time, and your severance pay is going to be more than being put on administrative leave till September 30th. So do not resign from your position. They cannot force you to resign from your position, and therefore you should not do it unless that is something that you had planned to do anyway. So let's get into this agreement. So, if you haven't seen the agreement, I'm going to just kind of read some of the terms and conditions for you, just so that you will know exactly what I'm talking about. But the agreement basically starts with, the OPM memo, the whole fork in the road memo, and that at the beginning of it talks about employees being able to retain all pay and benefits and exempts them from all applicable in-person work requirements until September 30th. And then it goes on to say that the agency has received the employee's voluntary requests. I'm emphasizing voluntary because if you voluntarily submit your resignation, you lose all your rights. So any rights that result from class action lawsuits, you won't be involved in it. You can't capitalize from it. You can't bring any lawsuits against the agency because you voluntarily resign from your position. So throughout this document, they mentioned that word voluntary several times. And so I want you to make sure that if you're going to voluntarily quit your job, that you understand that you are giving up all rights. Also, the terms and conditions. The first term is employee is accepted into the deferred resignation program. Automatically off the top, you submit it, they accept it. And so you may not have an opportunity for your agency to say that they're not going to accept it. And so that they just want you to know off the top that it's been accepted. It also, the next one says employee agrees to continue working through whatever the date is in an effort to ensure a smooth transition of employees' duties, responsibilities, and work assignments to other staff. Employee is exempt from all in-person work requirements. Employee agrees to turn in all equipment and property on or before your separation date, as directed by your supervisor. Now, with this one, it clearly says that you will not have to come into the office. You will not have to do any work associated with your position. Now, that's in conflict with what some of the other agencies are telling their staff members. They're sending out communications saying that you may be required to come into the office if you submit your resignation during this time. They're also saying that you may have to do part or all of your job during this time. And so you want to be clear about what it is that your agency is expecting, and you want to get it in writing. They so the Some of the agencies are also putting clarifiers out there about outside employment. So you want to make sure that you are clear about what your agency's expectations are. Just going to read a couple of the comments here. They overinflated everything. Absolutely. I don't know anyone who resigned. I know people who have accepted. For those, the people that you know who have accepted, I guarantee you it is not 20,000 people. 20,000 people is only 1% of the 2 million federal workers worldwide. And so I'm sure their goal was not 1%. So even if 20%, if 20,000 did it, 1% is not going to help them meet their goal. So ask yourself, what's their next move? If that number doesn't go up, what's their next move? Because I guarantee you the goal was not 1%. I heard somewhere between 5 and 10% was the goal. And so you have to, anticipate what their next move is going to be. That agreement part about, oh, we're going to get to that one. Waive any right to sue. Absolutely. We're going to talk about that one, Kim. They are going to shut down. So resign folks will get nothing. All rights revoked. No. Okay, so it talks about that as well. And so I'm going to get to that as well. So the third term is employee shall be placed on paid admin leave no later than, and then the agency has to fill in the date by which you will be placed on admin leave after you transition your duties. Employees shall remain on paid leave up through and including September 30th or such earlier date on which employee may choose to resign or otherwise separate from federal service. During the deferred resignation period, shall continue to pay employees current salary and shall continue to retain and receive all benefits of employees' federal employment, including but not limited to TSP contributions, health, dental, vision, and or any other similar benefits, with the agency making the government's contribution. Employee will continue to accrue annual and sick leave during the deferred resignation period. I want to stop here and just say that during the deferred resignation period, if you are on paid administrative leave, as long as you are in a paid leave status, nothing about your benefits or nothing about your accrual of leave should change. Employee will continue to accrue and or employee will receive retirement service credit. Nothing about your employment should change as long as you are in a paid leave status. If the employee becomes eligible for a within grade increase, the deferred resignation period shall process the within grade increase, and employees shall receive the associated salary increase. Now, they're talking about within grade increases, but there's no mention about if you were eligible for a career ladder promotion. And so you want to ask the question if you are eligible or you will become eligible for a career ladder promotion, what happens when it's time for you to get your promotion? And if you cannot get it in writing, this might not be the deal for you. You want your promotions as well. Also, the fourth one is employees shall not be expected to work during the deferred resignation period except in rare circumstances. So if you are one of those 20,000 people who submitted your deferred resignation, it says you should not be expected to work in except for in rare circumstances. And so who gets to decide what those rare circumstances might be? It certainly won't be you as an employee. And the minute a rare, and you know in the government, everything is critical, everything is urgent. In the event they have a rare circumstance and require you to work, you will have to go in. Now, what's going to be challenging about that is that you can't, you don't have access to the system, so they have taken your access away. So I don't know how you're going to be able to do the work. You don't have the equipment because you turned that in before you left out on paid administrative leave. And so you are going to have to go into the office during a period of time in which they say you are exempt from all report to the office situations. And so think that through. How are you going to work in those rare circumstances? Are you going to be eligible for your transit subsidy benefits? You know, are you going to have, who's going to put the bill for you to drive to work and park? You know, think that through. Of course, it's going to be you, the individual, who's going to be responsible for having to pay the part to go in on those rare circumstances, because you cannot do government work on non-government computers. And so you want to make sure you are clear about what a rare circumstance is and how is it going to work for you. So you can still contribute to your TSP and or 401k. Absolutely, you still can, as long as you are in a paid leave status. They will still take out all of the deductions that they've been taking out your check the entire time that you've been employed. So nothing about that will change. The fifth one, Employee agrees that effective resignation date and separation from federal service shall be September 30th. Employee, however, may resign from the federal service on any date prior to that, shall not take steps to terminate employee's employment with the federal service prior to September 30th, except where the employee is convicted of a felony crime. Imagine that. Let's just sit with that for a minute. You can lose your job if you commit a felony. Okay, sit with that one. That would render employee ineligible for federal employment. Now, felonies continue to render you ineligible for federal employment, but not everybody. If you notice, I did not read anything in there about being able to extend if you had planned to retire between October 1st and December 31st. That's not in that part of the agreement. And so again, you want to make sure if you are doing this program or considering it, because you got 2 days left, that you are thinking through what they're actually saying in this document. The sixth one says employee will receive a lump sum payment of accrued annual leave upon separation from service. Yes, anytime you leave the federal government, you will get paid out for your annual leave. However, if you resign and not retire and you have sick leave on the books, you will not get paid for that. Even you will not, under any circumstances, get paid for that. What happens with your sick leave is they will hold it in abeyance. So if you ever return to federal service, they will recredit it to you. And so you want to make sure that you have your latest pay stubs that shows your leave balances so that you know if you are forced out that how much sick leave you had on the books, and you want to keep that and guard that with your life, because I can't imagine that amongst all of the chaos that's going down, that the systems are going to be able to keep up with your information. My agency says we have to turn in our computer. Absolutely. Once transition is complete, however, you will keep your ID for access to emails, etc., until 9:30. Is that problematic? It is not problematic as long as you don't try to access your emails or access anything on that system while you are on paid administrative leave. So you will get paid for your annual leave. They'll keep your sick leave. If you retire, they will credit your sick leave towards your retirement or towards your annuity. Nothing in this agreement prevents the employee from retiring from federal service at any time if the employee is eligible to do so. If employee is eligible and elects to retire before September 30th, employee's retirement election shall override any benefits that would be available to employee under this agreement after the effective date of your retirement. So if you are planning to retire before September 30th, once you say I'm retiring August 31st, then you are no longer going to be put on be on paid administrative leave, and you will kick in your retirement stuff. So what you want to do, if you are considering retiring during this time as a part of this program, I'm gonna put program in quotes because it's not such a thing, but part of this program, you want to make sure that when you leave your agency, you have your benefits officer's phone number so that you can contact them, and their email address so you can contact them. Now, as you can imagine, if it's 20,000 people, your agency benefits person or people are extremely busy, and they are probably fielding a lot of questions. And so you want to make sure that you submit your paperwork early. And you can make the effective date whatever you want, but don't submit it so early that, let's say you plan to retire September 30th and you under FERS. Don't submit it in February, March, April, because now you're expecting your benefits person to keep up with your retirement package. And I can imagine that some are going to slip through the cracks because they cannot process the retirement package until after the effective date. So if you are retiring effective September 30th, then they can't process it until that pay period closes. And if that pay period extends into October, they can't send it to OPM for processing until after the effective date. And the reason that is because sometimes employees submit their retirement applications and decide that they change in their minds. And so it would make no sense and there'd be too much confusion to submit it before then or even try to process it. The way that the system works, it just wouldn't let you process it ahead of time anyway. So I would say, find out from your benefits person how much leeway they need and then track your stuff. Track when you sent it to them, track when you talking to them, and when you can anticipate them getting back in touch with you. Track all of that because I can promise you they are going to be extremely busy and they are going to be doing their best. But sometimes their best won't be good enough for us, especially if our retirement package falls through the cracks. The eighth one, employee may accept non-federal employment during the deferred resignation period, provided it does not violate the standards of ethical conduct for employees of the executive branch. Keep in mind, the initial Q and A's said, "Oh yeah, by the way, you can get outside employment while you're on paid administrative leave. That's not a problem." Now they're changing the tune and telling you that it has to be. You need to make sure from your ethics people that it's okay to do whatever it is you want to do as outside employment. So if you decide to do this and you leave your agency, take your ethics official's phone number and email address with you so you can contact them in the event you need outside employment. You would rather have their approval and not need it than need it and not have it. Because if you need it and not have it, then that could be grounds for them to terminate you because now you are in violation of the ethics standards. So if you are considering to make sure, considering outside employment during this time, make sure you get that uh, approval. And they should either send you something saying in writing, saying, yes, you are approved for this outside employment, or that you are not, or you don't need our approval for this type of employment. And so usually when you submit an application for outside employment, they are going to come back and ask you some questions. And so just be prepared for those questions. But do not go out here and get outside employment without clearing it with the ethics official. If my retirement date is 9/30, when program ends, could there be a break in your benefits? No. Okay, so if you retire 9/30 and you are under FERS, your annuity and all of your benefits will kick in October 1. So you should be good. Because remember, under FERS, it's best to retire at the end of the month, and under CSRS, it's best to retire either the first, second, or third of a month. So keep those dates in mind. What retirement date do I need to prevent a break in service of benefits? You should not ever have a break in service of your benefits. Not ever. Um, Everything should be continuous. You will not have a break in service. I retired on August 31st. Everything continued on starting September 1st. So there was no break in service, break in my benefits. Let's see. Okay. Number 9. By signing this agreement, the parties acknowledge. This is the one that had me really cracking up. The parties acknowledge that they have entered the agreement knowingly, voluntarily, and free from improper influence, coercion, or duress. Imagine that. I guarantee you 20,000 people did not wake up on January 19th and say, I'm going to resign in my job under a deferred resignation program. And so you are saying that you are doing this on your own and it's not due to anything that's happening from the administration. You're just saying that this is what I wanted to do. And so it goes on to say the employee understands that this agreement cannot be rescinded. Now, earlier the Q and A's talked about you could ask for a rescission. The agency doesn't have to give you one, but you could at least ask for one. Now, the actual agreement says it cannot be rescinded except in the sole discretion of the agency head. Okay, this is not something your supervisor can approve. It has to go all the way up to the top in order for the rescission to even be considered, which shall not be subject to review at the Merit Systems Protection Board or otherwise. So, what they're essentially saying is you are giving up all your rights. You can't appeal it to the Merit Systems Protection Board. You cannot take them to court over it. You cannot participate in any class action lawsuits, nothing. You are giving it all up. It goes on to say in number 10 that an employee acknowledges that the agency, in conjunction with all other federal departments, agencies, and units, will immediately rely on the terms of this agreement in consolidating and reassigning roles and otherwise taking steps to reform the agency workforce. If you are leaving, this has absolutely nothing to do with you, how they go forward. It also says, consequently, you understand that this agreement is final. Remember the one above said only the agency head can consider and approve your rescission if you change your mind. But now it's saying that this agreement is final. So that's a little conflict right there. And the employee's decision to resign effective September 30th, unless you resign or retire earlier. It is final. It says that the agency shall comply with all terms of this agreement, even if the employee's position is eliminated or reassigned prior to September 30th. So the agency has to comply with the terms of the agreement, whereas in some instances, there's some conflict in the agreement. The employee shall not be subject to furlough, termination. You can't be terminated. Well, it says you shall not be subject to furlough. However, keep in mind if there's a lapse in appropriations on March 14th, that you will be subject to furlough, because that's what's exactly going to happen if the government doesn't get funded. And so it's saying that you won't be subject to that, but that's not true. So again, make sure you understand, if you are considering this, what this is saying, and be able to identify the inaccuracies so that you can ask questions. And if you can't get solid answers and get those solid answers in writing, do not accept this program. It says you can't be terminated. I guess you can if you already submitted your resignation. You won't be subjected to a RIF, a reduction in force, or layoff as a result of an OPM or federal government reorganization or reduction in force. Employees, now let's talk about that RIF piece for a quick second. So they have to set up, I explained this in the RIF video, setting up the competitive areas and the competitive levels. And so what they're suggesting in that language is that your name would be removed from that. So under a RIF, you may not be the one to lose your job. but somebody else might because of your bumping and retreating rights. And so, again, if you're going to do this deferred resignation program, think about your RIF rights that you are giving up. And if you're a longtime federal employee with really good performance appraisals, you may not be the one losing your job. It might be somebody with less years of service and less performance evaluations than you. And so, you want to make sure you understand that. Employees agree to cooperate with steps taken by the agency, such as reassignment to a different component. Now, they threw that in there because I thought that you were not going to be working. And so I don't know why they would then reassign you to a different component. So that's a little fuzzy for me. To exempt employee from any risk. So they're saying that they can reassign you to an area that they're not going to risk. So I guess the plan would be to put all of the people from one agency in some particular shop that some particular office, and then exclude that office from any RIF actions. What's considered a long-time federal employee? I have just 17 years. 17 years is a long-time federal employee. When I say long time, 17 years is a long time. And so you want to make sure with 17 years, let's say you have the last three performance appraisals you got outstanding. Instead of 17 years, you now have 37 years in a RIF. And so you may not be the one to lose your job with 37 years of service. So keep that in mind. Always add your performance evaluations, the average of the last three, or into your actual years of service to come up with how many years of service you would have in a RIF. So, number 11, if there's a lapse in appropriations during the term of this agreement that requires employees to be placed on furlough status. Now, just a few minutes ago, I said you wouldn't be subjected to the furlough according to the agreement. Now they're saying if it's a lapse in funding, they may be placing you on furlough status. That's a conflict. Employees shall be placed on furlough status during the lapse. So you will be subjected to the furlough. Once the lapse is over, the employee shall be taken off furlough and receive back pay under the Government Employee Fair Treatment Act of 2019. I talked about that either yesterday or the day before, what that act is, and the fact that it was signed under his first administration, and there's no guarantees that it will stay in place because we are not doing anything that's precedented at this point. Number 12. Employee, this another one had me laughing. Employee forever. That means the rest of your life. Waives and will not pursue through any judicial, the courts, administrative, Merit Systems Protection Board, or other process, any action. Forget just this program. They're saying any action against the agency that is based on, arising from, or related to employment at the agency or the deferred resignation offer. So nothing, you are done, including any and all claims that were or could have been brought concerning said matters. So absolutely nothing. You can't bring anything against the agency for any reason forever. Never sign your rights away forever. Employee unconditionally releases the agency and its present and former employees, officers, agents, representative, and all persons acting by, through, or in concert with any of those individuals, either in their official or individual capacities, from any and all liability based on, arising from, or related to the matters that employee may have against them, including any and all claims that were or could have been brought. Consistent with applicable law, employee similarly waives any claim that could be brought on employee's behalf by another entity, including employee's labor union. So think think about this. Not only are they saying that you are waiving all your rights forever, they're also saying that you need to just go sit down somewhere and stay out the way. That is a red flag. So if you have a case against the agency currently, that case gets dropped. If you have any concerns about something, let's say you were sexually harassed and you filed a claim against the agency, and because the agency didn't take the proper steps to protect you, you now have to drop that case and you could never bring it up again. So think about whether or not you really want to release all of your rights, all of your claims, any possible claims. So they're saying also that if during this period of time, they decide between now and September 30th, they decide that they're not going to pay you anymore. Guess what? You have waived all of your rights forever. You can't even sue them to say, well, they, according to this agreement, they promised to pay me, because you have waived all of your rights. So just think about that. That's a huge risk. It's a huge red flag. Let's see. So if they mess up your retirement, you can't do anything about it. You sure can, because you are waiving all of your rights. Just say no. Absolutely. Just say no. I said this in the RIF video, and I'm going to repeat it here. For people who have been in the government 20 plus years, if you get RIFed, you will probably be close to getting a full year salary as severance pay. So think about that. You would turn down a full year salary for severance pay for 8 months of administrative leave. And in addition to that, when you leave this program, when you leave as a result of this program, you also lose your eligibility to have priority consideration under the Career Transition Assistance Program or the Interagency Career Transition Assistance Program. I talked more about that in the RIF video. If you haven't seen it, check that out. So you are giving up that benefit as well. And so once you leave, you're going to probably be out. And no opportunities to have your priority consideration to come back in. The agency agrees to waive any debt owed by the employee. So if you got any advance annual leave, they talking about they'll waive that debt. If you owe the agency for, I don't know, advanced annual leave is the first thing that comes to mind. When it comes to advanced sick leave, you want to check and make sure that your agency has a solid policy on this. But I worked at one agency and we had an employee who passed away from a terminal illness, and the employee had received some advanced sick leave. The agency was trying to go after the employee's estate to recoup the money associated with that advanced sick leave. Our general counsel's office, our attorneys did their research and discovered that the agency could not recoup that money on advanced sick leave. So if you have advanced sick leave before you sign anything, find out. Well, they saying they're gonna release you from all debt owed. TSP loans, is that forgiven? That's a debt to yourself. That is not a debt to the agency. And so you will still have to pay that TSP loan back, or you are going to have to pay taxes on that money if you don't pay it back. So keep that in mind. So they waiving the debt by the employee to the agency pursuant to a recruitment incentive, student loan repayment, or other service agreements. So some people are out on paid parental leave. They're saying you don't have to come back and work 12 weeks. They're releasing you from that. If you got whatever the recruitment incentive was, they saying you don't have to fulfill your service agreements. Also agrees to waive any remaining service agreements from taking paid paternity leave, parental leave. And so that's what they're saying, that you will not have to pay them back anything. And the last one says, should the employee become subject to military orders during the deferred resignation period, then any laws, rules, or other guidance applicable to the employee as a service member that are inconsistent with provisions of this agreement shall supersede the inconsistent terms of this agreement. So basically, they saying if we call you up for military duty, we expect you to show up, and no questions asked. And so, again, read through it. I highly recommend you put your whatever your now I suspect that the agencies are going to tailor this and so I highly recommend you put it in front of an attorney, particularly if you don't know all of your rights. If you are unclear on anything, put it in front of an attorney. You got 2 days before you sign it. Don't rush into this. Again, don't quit your job, because I don't care what you see in the media. These people who they're claiming to have fired, who are career federal employees, are not fired. And the other thing is, if you get fired without due process, you can sue the agency. And there's a possibility that you can get up to $300,000 for wrongful termination. None of us federal employees, most of us that's not on that high pay banding at them high pay banding agencies, make $300,000. And so if you give up your rights, you're giving up the possibility of being able to sue the agency for wrongful termination. If you get fired without due process, then you have to make sure that that you don't give that up, and you can then sue the agency. Now, it is going to take time to go through any of the processes. Maybe if it's a RIF, if you have to sue the agency for wrongful termination, anything that you do is going to take time. So be prepared for that and carve out time in your day to deal with it, and the rest of your day don't deal with it, because you don't want to get sucked in so deep that you are not only experiencing anxiety and depression, but you are now passing that on to all your family members, your friends, everybody that's in your circle. And so try to strike a balance in how you approach these days to come. Isn't that agreement subject to your signature before it can be legally binding? Absolutely. Oh, you have to sign it. Um, there are two signature lines, one on behalf, somebody signing on behalf of the agency, and then the employee signing it. So this is just the agreement that OPM sent out to agencies to do with as they will, to send out to people who are interested in this program. Or, they sent it out so that people could see what the agreement says. And so now that you know what the agreement says, know that there's conflicts in it. You're giving up all your rights. If anything changes, is nothing you can do about it. Do not quit your job if that was not already your plan for 2025. And if you get terminated without due process, the only way federal employees that are career employees can be terminated is one, if they have poor performance, or two, they have some egregious misconduct. And so it would have to be for cause for most federal employees. They cannot just say you're fired. This is not the private sector. So keep that in mind. So I could reply resign and still rescind it if I don't sign the agreement. Absolutely not. They're going to try to force you at that point to sign it. So I would not reply resign and try to rescind it because you didn't sign the agreement, because then they may try to take you to court to say that you responded to that email and then you failed to hold up your end of the bargain, and therefore all bets are off. And any debt you owe us, we need our money. All bets are off that you are going to be on admin leave. All bets are off. And so I would not respond to the email unless I was absolutely sure that that is what I was going to do anyway. So this is not the time. Again, everything that is happening right now is unprecedented for federal workers. So now is not the time to panic. Now is not the time to make ill-informed decisions. Make sure you educate yourself. Make sure you understand your particular information, and make sure if you are planning to retire, because that's what you intended to do anyway, then you sit down with your benefit specialist and get your estimates. And remember, it's just an estimate. And so you want to make sure that you know what you're dealing with. Also, as we navigate these new rough waters, I am going to continue to come to you live, answer your questions on the spot, give you the expertise that I have, and put you in a position to make the best possible decision for yourself and your family. I suspect that most people who are eligible to retire and have not done so is because they cannot afford to. If that is your situation, do not retire behind this stuff. If you know for sure you cannot retire, think about it this way. If you are under FERS and you have 30 years of service, you're going to get 30% of your salary. If you are currently living off of 30% or less of your salary, and you have maxed out your TSP for the last 20 plus years, and once you turn the year you turn 50, you capitalized off of the catch-up contribution, then you are probably prepared to retire financially. One of the things that's going to happen is that people who are walking away from their federal jobs are going to think that they could just walk right into private industry. Keep in mind, they are all in this together. And they have already called federal employees low productivity employees. And so once you submit a resume with your federal service on it, they're going to automatically think you are a low productivity employee. So you think they're going to hire you into the high productivity job? Probably not. It won't happen for everybody. And so, again, make an informed decision. I cannot say that enough. Do not quit your job. I am going to come and um, to you live as often as I can, as when things are happening. I'm trying to do it the day that I find out so that you have the information you need the day that it comes out. And so I got this agreement this morning. And so now I'm sharing it with you. And so that's how in real time, I want to give you the information so that you can make informed decisions. Thank you, Diane. I am doing my part to give back. And so I want to, I'm doing it freely. And I have no issues with doing it. And I will continue to do so as long as the chaos is going on. And yes, it is a setup for poverty. And so you want to make sure that if you are planning to retire and you have not thought about that before because of your financial situation, please know that your annuity check is going to be 30% of your salary if you have 30 years of service. Also, please know that you're still going to be paying your health benefits if you qualify for that. That's still coming out of that 30%. If you got dental and vision, that's coming out of that. Your federal taxes is still coming out of that. Your state taxes is coming out of that. So you want to make sure that you understand what you can expect to bring home, and can you live off of that? If you have TSP and you have a decent amount in your TSP account, you can bank on at least 35% of that going to taxes. As you withdraw it, you're going to pay taxes on it. Your federal taxes, your state taxes. So if you have the traditional TSP account, you are going to pay taxes on that money. And so you can deduct that off the top of whatever you have in your TSP account. Make sure you know that the tax is coming off the top. Also, if you have a Roth account, you have already paid taxes on that money. So make sure if you have a Roth account, that if you have both a Roth and a traditional, that as you draw money down, draw it down from the Roth first, because you've already paid taxes on that money and you do not have to pay additional taxes on that money. So let's see. Awesome info. Thank you, Jackie. I appreciate you for this. You've helped calm my decision. You have answered questions that my agency could not yet. Thanks for being a blessing. Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. Most of my TSP is iRoth. Okay, very good. Then the amount taken from the TSP is included as earned income at the end of taxes. Absolutely. You got to pay more taxes on it. So I promise you, it's a lot of taxes coming off your traditional TSP. We appreciate your wisdom and knowledge, Sharon. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm just trying to do my part, right? And I want to make sure that people can make informed decisions. So with that being said, this one was a little bit longer today. So it's just going to depend. I'm going to continue to post the flyer and let you know what I'm talking about, so you'll know and you can, prepare yourself to jump on. I'm gonna try to stick to the 7:00 hour, because my normal podcast, which I'm doing on Thursday at 6:30, we're going to be talking about how can you be resilient, particularly as women, during this time. We're going to talk about that on Thursday at 6:30. You'll see the flyers drop on my social media. Again, you can follow me on Facebook, TikTok, not so much TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and my YouTube channel. If you haven't had a chance to subscribe to my YouTube channel, please do so. That way, if you can't make the live broadcast, you will get a notification when I drop the new video. So then you can take the time to watch it at your leisure. I have received lots of people following me. I am thankful for that. And I appreciate you all. And again, where do I find the Riff podcast? It's on my YouTube channel, Sherelle Higgins 123. Sherelle Higgins. Hey, Stevie. Sherelle Higgins 123 on YouTube. Um, and my name is spelled Sharrelle, and I'm noticing up here on this thing that my name is misspelled. Sharrelle, Higgins, Higgins 123 on YouTube. And my YouTube channel is obviously called Let's Get Into It. So thank you all. I will be back when I get the next piece of information to explain what that information is to you. Next week should be really interesting because the deadline would have passed, and then we can see, what's next if only 1% of the federal workforce submitted for the Deferred Resignation program. I should be live on YouTube tonight. It shows up live on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. So thank you all again. Have a great night. Enjoy. Try to take some time to decompress. Try not to absorb too much information from the news, because we already know that they're not giving it to us straight with no chaser. So try not to absorb too much. And yes, resist, resist, resist. They want you to throw your hands up and be overwhelmed by everything that's going on. Don't fall for it. Take care of yourselves, take care of your families, and try to, enjoy your life. I appreciate you all. Have a good night. Thank you for joining and participating in Let's Get Into It. I want to thank my special guest for being brave enough to get into it. Without you, these conversations cannot happen. Remember, different viewpoints, respect, and love are the foundations of Let's Get Into It. If there's a topic you think I should discuss, drop me a recommendation. If you're interested in being my special guest, let me know, because we can and will get into it. Have a great day on purpose, and I look forward to your continued engagement and support as we get into it.